I'm John Tobacco. I'm the host of Liquid Lunch, which is a national news program broadcast on Biz TV. Community activist and a friend of Dan, Keith, and these great men right here who are standing up for our community. We've had many victories against the mayor and the governor. I think we're actually still undefeated due to the great work of Mark Fonte and Lou Gelomino. On December 6th, just after midnight it happened, Danny was arrested, not here, where he had surrendered peacefully 2 days before, 2 blocks away in the dark of night by men dressed in black in a political ambush. The guy speaking up was just a little too much for our leaders here. And the way you turn their peers against them is you paint them as a violent criminal willing to hurt police officers. Between December 7th and December 10th, Danny lost his regular day job after he and Keith losing their bar and facing hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines and reputational risk. It's emotional because it's a scary America right now where governors and mayors are locking up small businessmen. It's a scary America where small businesses don't get any federal help. The only presidential authority we see is from Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. He's done more for small businesses in this country than anyone in the White House or in the Capitol, quite frankly. On December 30th, the 40 summonses were all dismissed. On January 22nd, all the criminal charges brought on the night of the takedown were also dismissed. So after a month and a half of harassment, intimidation, arrests, fines, it turns out Danny wasn't violating any law at all because everything that was issued has been dismissed. This is a failure of leadership. Mark Fonte's now going to talk to you about the big lie. And the big lie was, even after the takedown didn't work out quite as planned, the New York City sheriff went on the record and said there was an injured officer with 2 broken legs. And now, thanks to Brady material during the grand jury proceedings, we know that the sheriff flat out lied and quite possibly broke the law. So without further ado, Mark Fonte.
So on Thursday, January 21st, Dan Presti and myself went into the grand jury in Richmond County. We were in the grand jury room for about an hour and a half. Dan gave a truthful, honest, factual, and detailed accounts of the events of December 5th and 6th. He was questioned vigorously by one of the best prosecutors in the district attorney's office. He handled every question. He answered every question without hesitation or purpose of evasion. The grand jurors listened intently. And the next day, January 22nd, we were informed that the grand jury did their job after listening to Dan's testimony. And their job was to no-bill him, which in layman's terms is find him not guilty of each and every charge as it pertains to the sheriff. The sheriff lied, he got caught, he must resign. But I have to tell you, this is not law enforcement. Every sheriff's officer is someone's son or daughter. They deserve proper training for their own safety, for the safety of people like Danny, and for the safety of the citizens of New York City. The fact that they don't get their proper training and that these sons and daughters wind up in harm's way conducting law enforcement activity without the proper training, without the proper leadership, sits right on the lap of the city, of the mayor, of the mayor's office. Because if one of these sheriff's officers gets seriously hurt, or a Staten Islander gets seriously hurt, or someone in Danny's position gets seriously hurt, that blood is on the lap of the mayor. There's an easy fix. Sheriff Faceto resigns immediately. He should, as part of his resignation announcement, apologize. Apologize. Not just to Danny Presti, but to the people of Staten Island who he lied to. You should also apologize to all of you in the press and the media who he lied to.
The last time I was in front of Max Public House in front of a camera and being able to speak to people, I mentioned that when the facts come out, you'll see that I did nothing wrong. And that's exactly the truth that came out. In no way would I ever intentionally harm anybody in law enforcement. What happened that night, and it is now, the facts did come out, was I was chased down in the middle of the night on a dark street by people who did not identify themselves. And it happened for one specific reason, and that was to silence me. And now, even though I'm able to speak, there's a lot of people that are telling me, you should kind of take this as a victory and just lay low and not say anything. And I'm standing here before you, and I want the entire country to hear this, is that I will not be silent. Because this is not the time to be silent. There is still much to do, and there's still a lot that I'm going to talk about, and I will hold people accountable for what's going on. Sheriff Faceto sending out these sheriffs and putting his own deputies in harm's way with the lack of training and the lack of leadership. He needs to be held accountable, and he has to respond to why this happened and why those deputies were sent out against them. We have rights and we have liberties, and they are being stripped away from us. Not only does the sheriff of New York City have to be held accountable and responsible for what happened, the mayor and the governor do as well. These people are supposed to take care of us, and they are supposed to be there for us. They are put in a position of power, and they are failing us in almost every way. The mayor is destroying the city, and the governor is now backtracking and saying that we have to open businesses before there's no businesses left to open. This is what we've been saying now for almost an entire year. We need to be able to provide for our families, and we need to be able to open. And this man and the rest of the governors in this country do not get to act like kings, and they do not get to make law. These are not laws, these are mandates. We still will fight these mandates until they allow us to get our livelihoods back. These governors and these mayors have not only stripped people of their livelihoods, but they were responsible for the deaths. And they get to go up there in front of news cameras and write books about leadership qualities, and they are the furthest thing from leaders. I'll tell you what, leaders that have nobody following behind them are just taking a walk. And the governor and the mayor at this point should walk themselves right out of this city and state, because they are doing the furthest from protecting us and doing right by us. So I'm here to tell you right now that I will not be silent. And everybody who has a voice, we need to speak and we need to be heard. So we have a lot of work to do.
And the last year or so, it's been hell. It really has. How the government, what our local government is doing to the small people, the working people, the businessmen. And all summer I had rallies, even in the beginning, trying to get small business owners, small restaurants, who are going to lose anyway, get together and just open up. You know, you have to fight. What patriotism is not just waving your flag on 4th of July. What happened today, what you are listening to today, this is the epitome of patriotism. That the little man fought and won and beat the man who beat him. But here we are today, that the little guy fought, didn't care what he was going to lose because of what was right and what needed to be done, and how today it should be celebrated like the 4th of July for us folks here. This is a major victory to prove to the rest of the country that all the other businesses that are like this, that are going down, You have to fight. The message is, people, I'll say it over and over again, do not give up the ship. These two gentlemen, these legends, have proved that today. So you can win.
To everybody that has supported us through this, I want to say thank you. To those of you that end up taking a deep breath and decided to hear me and Danny and stood behind us, I thank you for that. For those of you that have gone out and bashed him and bashed Max Public House, you need to publicly owe us an apology. We deserve an apology from our mayor. We deserve an apology from our governor. Most importantly, we are owed an apology from the sheriff. This is not a black and white thing. This is an American thing. This isn't just about Max. This is about all small businesses. And hopefully on February 2nd, the argument will be heard. And like up in Erie County, judges will start seeing the reality of what this really is. They will follow the science. They will follow the facts. And we will end up getting open to start providing for our families.
Was there any hesitation, though, of them going home, you know, possibly spreading COVID to a family or somebody that might have been sick once they left?
No, because it's actually been proven. So all these rules and science that we've heard has proven that COVID doesn't spread in the bars, in the gyms, in the restaurants, in any of these places, because we're safe here and we know how to be safe. We have cleaning protocols even before COVID happened. The reality is, people are going into these places and then they're going home where there are no rules and regulations and people put their guard down. So the governors and the mayors have made these mandates and sent people basically to get sick in these parties because in homes there are no regulations, there are no protocols. So instead of sitting in a bar or a restaurant or going to a gym and sitting at a table by yourself, having to wear masks when you stand up and do these things, they're going home. At 10 o'clock at night, they're going home and then they're in large groups. So we were never worried about it. We had all of our contact tracing logs. We never let anybody that was in sick. We did temperature checks. Nobody was sick here. There's not been a single case that has been related back to Max Public House or that we know of any restaurants in Staten Island. Because if it was, we would have known about it. And then that would have contributed, and I'm sure it would have been everywhere, that restaurants are spreading it. Nothing has been traced back to Max Public House. Restaurants, bars, gyms, they are not super spreaders.
Earlier, it's not a black or white thing. There's been a lot of comments on our site, on SI Live. You know, it's an example.
That's being put out by you guys in the media.
Of two different.
That's being put out by you guys in the media.
So there's a lot. We got like about 1,000 comments on the story. I think the two different justice systems. You know, one for black and brown people, and one for white people.
Not in regards to this. You guys need to stop doing this.
For real.
Please stop doing it.
Let me just say one thing.
Stop stirring the
Let me
pot.
say one thing. You know, with regard to that question, I think it would be good for everyone to take note that in a time when DAs have gone mad in New York City, we have a district attorney here in Staten Island named Mike McMahon, who's a lifelong Democrat. He's been a pretty voracious supporter of many progressive movements, even back to his time in city council and in the Congress. So to question race over a highly public case where you have a Democratic progressive prosecutor, I think that's just people trying to continue to take the narrative to a place where it doesn't belong. And unfortunately, our national leaders have let our country get divided with that same garbage, and it's trickling down to the community. And to Kid's point, Staten Island Advance gets a big kick out of demonstrating constantly that they're tone deaf and they have completely no understanding of what's going on here in Staten Island. And by the way, if you're going to be the editor of a local newspaper and print hogwash, it might help if you actually lived in Staten Island and not in New Jersey.
Who are you referring to exactly? Who lives in New Jersey?
I'm referring to the editor of the Staten Island Advance, Brian Leyline, who was tone deaf and he should have been relieved of his duty long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, God.